Selamat pagi semuanya. Terima kasih. Terima kasih terutama terhadap DJ Mocha dan Kasia. To start is always the hardest part, so thank you for going before me. Kalau tidak apa-apa, saya akan pakai bahasa Inggris. Kalau oke dengan semuanya. Terima kasih. Because I only have 12 minutes and dalam bahasa Indonesia pelan sekali. Okay. Innovation is it's a very abstract concept. It's something that sounds very nice, but you wonder if it has content. Is it just something that makes us feel good, that makes us feel like we are moving ahead with the times, or is it something that means something real? First of all, it's an enormous wealth creator. Industries that did not exist 25 years ago, like the internet, today are generating billions of dollars in e-commerce. It is expected that in 2015, e-commerce could reach probably $1 trillion in commerce, an industry that did not exist. The space industry, which it's entirely new. It's just getting off. It already employs about 500,000 people. It's a way that in societies with established economies, innovation finds industries that did not exist at all, and in industries that do exist, it creates efficiencies that were not there to begin with, and you can see that in the pharmaceutical industries, in many other industries. Innovation also is particularly important because it thrives, it looks for innovators, innovating industries, look for and prosper in environments that reflect what we look to build upon our countries. Innovation requires transparency, meritocracy, equal access to opportunities, equal access to education, moving away from having an open education system and equal opportunities. Those happen to be very much the same type of qualities that we pursue as nations, as countries, particularly countries like ours, like Indonesia and the U.S., that are based upon a diverse, pluralist, open democracy system. So I will go through some of the inventions and identify some common denominators that were present in some of those things that we use. This gentleman, Friedward Wittenberg, I don't know if anyone's heard, I'd never heard of him before. Wittenberg was born in Berlin. He went to Johns Hopkins, and he invented, one of the creators of the GPS. Aristides Patrinos was born in Greece, in Athens. Went to Northwestern, and was one of the leading scientists behind the Human Genome Project. Ali Javan was born in Tehran. He went to MIT and invented Darth Vader. He was one of the creators of the laser. This gentleman, probably you've seen him many times. Sergey Brin was born in Moscow. Went to the University of Maryland, then went to Stanford University, and while at Stanford created Google with Larry Page. There are many other cases of inventors. Johnny Ives at Apple from the UK. Airbags, the Wii, all of those were inventions that were created following the same models. And what did these what did these, Viagra as well, Velcro, what did these inventions have in common? One of the inventions, they speak about three pillars of, to foster an innovation culture. And they are research, education, and infrastructure. In all of those cases that we saw, and in most innovative environments, what we see these three pillars, but not in themselves. There are things that are very, very important and that are certainly present in the US and in some of the most countries successful at innovating. The first one is public-private partnerships. In all of these inventions, GPS, Google, the airbag, Viagra, you name it, in all of them, there were private institutions working together with public ones. The airbag, for instance, was a joint research by the Department of the Navy and a university. The same with lasers. You had private sector, academic institutions, and the government funding it. That the government funds it is another factor that's key in the success of creating that environment. Why? Because most of these industries, at the beginning, they're not profitable. So the government needs to step in and foster and promote and invest in many of those industries. And that's something that you have seen, that we have seen throughout. Perhaps just as important as the government's ability to fund it and participate with private sector and academic institutions is our education system. Our education system in the US, it's extremely, extremely open and porous. Porous between academic institutions and the private sector and the public sector, but also porous because it encourages and it attracts foreigners and people from all strata of society in the US and in other countries to come and study in the US. It's a system that encourages, challenges, dissent, that protects different opinions, that doesn't seem to quash and set one way of thinking. That's part of the reason so many foreigners have ended up at US universities. The US has, way above all countries, has more foreigners in our academic institutions than any other country. About a third of our students come from overseas. There are over 750,000 students, foreign students in the US, out of which less than 3,000 come from Indonesia. We have, throughout our system, we have many of our schools that have a great amount of foreigners. And there are particular faculties, for instance, the engineering faculties. There are some graduate engineering in the US, electrical graduate engineering. About 70% of the students are from foreign universities, come from foreign countries. Another factor that makes the US very attractive is the access. In the US, there's access to capital. Interest rates are cheap, it's easy to get loans, and very easy to get grants. These are just examples of a number of institutions that actually promote and reward and invest on inventors and people who are coming up with innovations, not just in products, but also in processes. For instance, the NCIIA not only funds people who are coming up with inventions on tangible goods, but also with improvements in the education. They have grants for improvements in the education system in Nicaragua, in the water development system in Uganda, and so forth. Another factor that makes the US attractive is the ability to profit from your invention. And in order to do that, you have to protect your creation. So whenever you hear our emphasis on intellectual property protection, what it's protecting is the ability for an inventor, someone who comes up with a process, to be able to draw the rewards for the work that they've put in for that, so that someone doesn't steal the fruits of your labor. Now, to finish off, one of the challenges of innovation, of creating a society that thrives on innovation, is that you have to keep reinventing yourself. And so, at the US right now, there's a considerable debate. Have we lost our edge in innovation? Have we started resting on our laurels? Have we started being content, quiescent in what we have achieved and not being innovative enough? As you see in the chart of innovative countries, the US is already falling behind to number 5th. There is a great debate among universities. How do we foster that? One of the ways to do that is to attract, to replenish our pool of very knowledgeable people by increasing the number of students that we bring to the US, increasing the number of investment. You see great debates in government. Should we invest in infrastructure? Should we invest in having Wi-Fi throughout every school? It's key that any nation, not just the US, any nation that seeks to be innovative and competitive, poses these questions, because the world is a very, very fluid place. I'll tell you one thing, the computing industry, which 5 years ago we would have said it's one of the emerging economies. The computing industry is changing dramatically. Already, nearly half of the people in Asia and Africa don't use personal computers anymore. Asia is 53% of the people. Africa is 53%, Asia is 46%. Don't use PCs anymore. The mobile device is becoming increasingly in use. More data, 3 times as much data moves through mobile devices in Asia than in the United States. So all of these changing conditions pose challenges to us and need us to rethink ourselves. Is our education system responding to these changes? Are cooperations between private sector and government adapting to these challenges? How we answer that question will determine where we will fall upon that list. Indonesia ranks lower, but it's moving up. But by no means this is a question that because of where you rank, by no means is this a question that you need to put aside or leave to the countries that rank in the top 10. In fact, places like Indonesia, with Indonesia, with its expanding economy, its very youthful population, stand to gain far more than established economies from investment in innovation. Finally, and I'm going to leave this to you, investment in innovation, do not just leave it to the government or the private sector. There is a big component in civil society, meaning all of you, meaning TEDx, meaning anyone who's not government, in civil society, in investing in yourselves, seeking the right education, seeking to be competitive in your world, and creating businesses, taking opportunities that come up, whether it's academic opportunities, private sector opportunities, taking those opportunities to advance not only yourself, but advancing your country and your society. I have faith in you. Thank you very much.